Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to Swayam Prabha, Channel 15. Course title is Human Resource Management and the lecture title is Employee Maintenance. This is Module 15, Lecture 1. I am Dr. Shoma Sengupta, Associate Professor, Commerce, Kamla Nehru College, University of Delhi. In this module, we will discuss the following topics: employee health and safety, employee welfare and social security, grievance handling and redressal, industrial dispute and settlement machinery. In this lecture, first lecture, we will discuss the first two topics: employee health and safety, employee welfare and social security. Employee health. Now, health is a very broad topic and it not only covers the physical well-being but also the mental and social well-being. So, health is a stage of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of any disease. A person is considered healthy if he is well adjusted to the environment in which he works. So it is not only about the physical health but also about his mental health, his social well-being, whether he is happy working in a particular organization or not. Is it causing any kind of stress? So even if no other problem is there, if stress is there, then it will affect his health. So, according to a joint ILO and WHO Committee on Organizational Health, industrial health has been defined as, or it is considered as, preservation and maintenance of physical, mental and social well-being of the workers in all occupations, prevention of ill health among workers caused by the working conditions, protection of workers in their employment from risks resulting from factors adverse to health, placing and maintenance of the worker in an occupational environment adapted to his physical and psychological equipment. So it has given a very broad definition of industrial health. Significance of employee health. Now, if you have healthy workforce, then obviously the productivity of the organization will improve. So this is a direct relationship. But another thing is that it will be beneficial for the employee as well. They will be happy working in the organization, coming to the organization. There will be lower absenteeism and labor turnover, lower rate of labor turnover will be there. There will be job satisfaction and in overall an atmosphere of friendliness and happiness will be there in the organization. So it is beneficial both for the organization or employer as well as the employee. Now, specifically the significances are to maintain and improve the productivity and quality of work, to minimize absenteeism and labor turnover, to reduce industrial unrest, indiscipline and accidents, to improve employee motivation and morale, to reduce spoilage and cost of operations, to preserve the physical and mental health of employees. So if you are investing in employees' health, then naturally it will give you benefit in future also, in the long run also. Occupational hazards. In an organization, especially in manufacturing organization and in many types of organizations like plantations or mines, there is always health hazards. The hazards can be because of the following reasons. One is chemical substances. In most of the industry, they use different type of chemicals, and if adequate precautions are not taken, then it may harm the health of the employee, as well as it may lead to any kind of disability or defect in them. So there should be manual, there should be guidelines, adequate safety measures should be there in the organization, so that there are these chemical substances are handled properly and they do not pose that much of hazard. Likewise, biological hazards are also there. Again, different types of materials are used in the organization, chemicals are used in the organization, different processes are there which may lead to biological hazards. Again, adequate precautions should be taken or safety measures should be there in the organization. Environmental hazards are of course there, that in the sense that pollutants may be released, which may ultimately not only affect the health of the employees but also of the people living in the vicinity of that industry. Then atmospheric condition is another problem. Most of the factories, they don't have adequate ventilation, cleaner environment is not there, dust, fumes are there, artificial humidification is done, which again affect the health of the workers. They may have respiratory problems also, and many types of skin diseases may be there. These may affect the health of the employees. So all these types of hazards should be taken care of in the organization, and adequate safety measures should be taken by the organization. Protection against health hazards. In an organization, as we were discussing, different types of hazards are there, and the organization should take adequate amount of precautions and safety measures to safeguard the life of employees. So the preventive measures may be pre-employment and periodic medical examination, removal of health hazards to maximum possible extent, check over women and other workers exposed to such risk, especially pregnant women. They are more exposed to certain risks, and even their fetus may be affected by all the types of chemicals and all the types of environmental hazards which may be there. So you have to take care of that, then not to employ such women in such type of machinery or such type of plant. Training of first aid staff, educating workers in health and hygiene, use of less toxic materials, providing protection devices, controlling noise, dust, fumes, gases, all these should be taken up in the organization. Then there are certain curative measures also, like treatment for the affected workers, on-time treatment, all that should be there. But in nutshell, everybody knows that prevention is better than cure. Statutory provisions concerning health. Now in India, there is a specific provision regarding health in the Factories Act 1948. A whole section, a whole lot of sections are devoted to this topic of health. So you can understand how important health of employee is there in different type of organization, especially manufacturing units, mines and plantation. In mines and plantation, that is covered by Mines Act and Plantation Act. In all other types of factories, the Factories Act is applicable, and in the Factories Act they have mentioned the specified industries which are covered under the act. So the provisions are, first is cleanliness. This is covered under section 11. Factory should be kept clean and free from smell arising from any drain, toilet. Dirt and refuse shall be removed daily. Floor cleaned. Effective means of drainage should be provided. Walls, window frames, everything should be whitewashed regularly. Then that is about cleanliness. Section 12 covers disposal of waste and effluents. So effective arrangement should be made for that. Disposal of waste arising out of production, manufacturing processes or production activities, and they should be made harmless. So all the pollutants should be removed before disposing it off. Ventilation and temperature is covered under section 13. Every factory must provide for adequate ventilation in every workroom for circulation of air. Ensure in the workroom such a temperature as will secure to workers there in reasonable conditions of comfort and prevent injury to health. Next is dust and fumes. Section 14. Effective arrangements must be made for the prevention of inhalation of accumulation of dust and fume. Exhaust appliances shall be installed. Artificial humidification. Section 15. State government may make rules regarding the permissible limits or standards of humidity, and the water used for humidification shall be taken from a public supply or other source of drinking water and must be purified before actual use. Overcrowding, section 16. According to this section, no room in any factory shall be overcrowded to an extent which is injurious to the health of the workers employed. At least 9 into 9 cubic meters should be there. Now it has been raised to 14.2 cubic meters of space per worker should be there. Next is lighting, section 17. Sufficient and suitable lighting arrangements should be there, both natural and artificial. Effective provision shall be made for prevention of glare, shadows, which causes strain to the eyes, or they should be provided with safety gears against such kind of lighting. Drinking water, section 18. Effective arrangement shall be made. Sufficient and pure drinking water should be made available to workers. The water point should be conveniently located. Latrines and urinals, section 19. Separate arrangements for men and women should be there. Sufficient number of sweepers should be there. And in factory where more than 250 workers are employed, all latrines and urinal accommodation shall be of the prescribed sanitary pipes. Then spit-ons, section 20. Sufficient number of spit-ons must be provided at convenient places. So these are all issues related to employee health being covered under the Factories Act 1948. Now, other dimensions of employees' health we must discuss. One is mental and emotional health of employee. All the employees, particularly the executives, they are required to be mentally healthy for the development of the organization. Now, mental health of the employees is considered important basically due to the following reasons. Nervous breakdowns, they happen because of the work conditions, stress. Mental disturbance in the employees results in lower productivity and lower profitability. Sometimes it leads to other problems also. Social evils may creep in, like alcoholism, high employee absenteeism and turnover will be there, and poor human relationships will be there in the organization. So a mental health program in any organization should provide the following services like psychiatric counseling, cooperation and consultation with outside psychiatrists if required, education of employees, development and maintenance of an effective human relations program. Next is social health of employees. It means how the individual can have healthy relations with persons with whom he is coming in contact in the organization. The following measures can be taken. Provision of good staff clubs may be there. So clubs with different type of recreation facilities, sporting facilities should be there, so that informal relationships can be built between the employees and supervisors. Love and affection and all these feelings, positivity, that will be transferred to their work situation as well. Arranging meetings in office time to involve the employees, that can be done. It will build sense of belongingness in them. Free access to seniors, arranging cultural programs, arranging tours, all these build the social health of the employees. Next is spiritual health of the employees. Health has its base in spiritual power also. So a healthy mind, spirituality, make a healthy body also. Organizations can arrange for different lectures on spirituality, which can keep the health of the employees in good shape, as well as move them in positive direction. Lowers blood pressure, less depression, anxiety, stronger immune system, and generally spend less money on medicines. So beside the physical health, all these type of health areas are also important. Next topic which we are going to discuss is employee safety. Beside health, you have to take care of safety of the employees also, because in an organization different type of chemicals are being used, dangerous machinery are there, which may lead to injuries, accidents, injuries, disabilities, deaths, and there will be not only you will lose out on your employees, but also there will be different compensations claims by the employees and their family members. So which will not be good for the organization, in the sense that they have to pay more amount of money on these types of claims rather than on development of the organization. So again, prevention is better than cure. Likewise, have adequate measures, safety measures in the organization, so as to avoid any kind of loss of human beings and further litigations and compensations. So employee safety involves protecting employees from injuries due to work related accidents and hazards. Mechanical, chemical, electrical, radiation hazards have increased due to different type of mechanization and automation of the industry. So there are greater chances of injuries leading to partial and total disablement. Industrial accident is a sudden and unexpected occurrence in an industrial undertaking, causing body injury to one or more persons and interruption in the orderly progress of work. Factories Act 1948 provides that an industrial accident is an occurrence in an industrial establishment causing bodily injury to a person which makes him unfit to resume his duties in the next 48 hours. Significance of industrial safety. It is directly related to efficiency, prevents accidents and ensures regular flow of work, helps to improve the morale and productivity of workers, contributes to teamwork and sense of belonging among employees. Employees can concentrate on their work with confidence and without fear. It saves employer as well as employees from different kind of losses, like employer will be relieved from cost of compensation, medical aid, training new workers, work stoppages, investigations, supervision, government intervention, spoilage of material, damage to machinery, loss of morale, and also there will be lesser loss of life and disablement. Measurement and records of accidents. It is very important nowadays. Certain ratios are used to measure accidents. One is accident frequency rate, that is the number of injuries multiplied by 10 lakh divided by total number of man hours worked. So this will give you what is the frequency of occurrence of injuries. Then accident severity rate, number of man days lost multiplied by 10 lakh divided by total number of man hours worked. That is the impact of such high number of injuries, how many man days are lost in the organization. So this ratio gives you an idea about that. So beside that, systematic and up-to-date records of industrial accidents and the measures undertaken to prevent them must be maintained in the organization. The ratios and records are helpful in identifying the areas, problem areas where further action is required. It is mandatory to maintain records under the Workmen's Compensation Act. Now the records, what it should contain? It should contain the number of employees exposed to different accidents, severity, date, time, shift, personal data of the employees. All these information should be there in the records. Causes of industrial accidents. One is unsafe conditions. It may be job related, work schedules, psychological condition, machinery and equipment, whatever is there in the organization, such conditions are there which may lead to industrial accidents. Then there are certain unsafe acts on the part of the employee, like failure to use safety devices, warnings, unauthorized entry, unsafe speeds, unsafe handling, cleaning, removing, etc. So these are the negligences on the part of the employee. Then there are miscellaneous causes like young, untrained and inexperienced workers may be there, alcoholism, drug addiction, disturbed with the family life or supervisors, stressed workers, all these leads to industrial accidents. Measures to ensure industrial safety. Now, in an organization, there should be safety policy, a kind of a guideline which will be referred to again and again, and if the circumstances changes totally, then only you make some changes in the guideline. These guidelines should be made available to everybody. They should know about it and adhere to it. Then safety committee may be there, which will time to time monitor and research and find out what problems are there. They will see to it the accident rates, the problem areas, and give suggestions, find out solutions to such problems. Then there can be safety engineering. Certain type of safety measures can be taken in the organization, like guarding of machines, material handling equipment, safety devices, Ergonomics should be again studied and made changes in it. Plant maintenance, general housekeeping, all these should be taken care of. Then safety, education and training. Time to time you can have education and training program, not only for the supervisor but for all the workers also, so that they should know what kind of precautions and safety measures they should take before handling a particular type of equipment. Then the role of government is also very important. Time to time the government comes out with different guidelines and acts, some amendments are made to the acts, so that they can take care of different types of problems faced by the employees. When we talk about statutory measures to ensure industrial safety, again the Factories Act 1948 is very important in this regard. So it covers the fencing of machinery. Certain sections of the act covers all these activities, like first, fencing of machinery, work on or near machinery in motion. So it is defined what precautions has to be taken while working on such machines. Employment of young persons on dangerous machines, that has to be avoided. Striking gears and devices for cutting off powers, self-acting machines, casing of new machinery, prohibition of employment of women and children near cotton openers, hoists and lifts, how it should be maintained, lifting machines, chains, ropes and lifting tackles, maintenance of such things, revolving machinery, employee fitness program, employee wellness program. So all these are covered under the Factories Act 1948. Coming to the third important area, that is employee welfare. So we have discussed health, then safety, and now it is employee welfare. Now welfare means the efforts to make life worth living for workmen. So you are going to give different kind of facilities to the workmen so that their life becomes easier. So sometimes it is called as perquisites also, fringe benefits also, but it goes beyond that. A definition given by Arthur James Todd, employee welfare means anything done for the comfort and improvement, intellectual or social, of the employees over and above the wages paid, which is not a necessity of the industry. So it may be voluntary, or it may be compulsory for the employer, but these are over and above the wages and other benefits given to the employees. Features of employee welfare. It is a comprehensive term and includes various services, facilities and amenities provided to employees for their betterment. It is a dynamic concept and differs from place to place. In addition to regular wages and benefit, this is very important. So it is on top of their wages and benefits, anything given to the employees. So that comes under welfare. Purpose is to improve the lot of the working class. So it is to make their life comfortable and worth living. Also known as fringe benefits and services, and at higher level it is perquisites, both voluntary and statutory. So generally we talk about the fringe benefits only, but these may be voluntarily given by the employer, or certain things like education allowance, medical benefits, they are statutorily also required to be given by the employer to the employees. Objectives of employee welfare. Now employee welfare is in the interest of the employee, the employer and the society as a whole. So everybody will gain out of the employee welfare program. The employee, of course, because all the benefits will go to him. The employer, because he will have happy workers, productive workers in the organization, and in the long run also they will stick to the organization and he will enjoy the goodwill also. And the society as a whole, because people from the society are actually coming to the organization and working, so they will be, the people, members of the society will also be happy about the welfare schemes, and as a whole the standard of living will also improve. Helps to improve recruitment, loyalty and morale of the employees, employee productivity, industrial relations and industrial peace, goodwill and public image of the enterprise because of welfare measures, material, intellectual and cultural conditions of the workers, and saves them from social evils. It also reduces labor turnover and absenteeism. agencies of welfare services. Who provides the welfare services? We know that the employers, they provide welfare services, but beside that there are different parties who provide welfare services not only to the employees but also to public in general. One is central government. Central government makes it mandatory, and they have included provisions for health, safety and welfare under different acts like Factories Act 1948, Mines Act 1952 or the Plantation Act. Then the state government. Government in different states and union territories, they prescribe rules for the welfare and provide welfare facilities also to the workers. Then employers, as we have said that employers are the major party who provide welfare facilities, but still they are forcefully doing so. Voluntarily they are not taking up welfare measures in the organization. Very few employers, they have done pioneering work in India regarding welfare services. Then the trade unions. In India, trade unions, except a few, have done little for the welfare of the workers, because most of the trade unions, there is multiplicity of trade unions. They are politically driven, and the subscription to trade union is very less, and because of that they don't have, many of the trade unions, they don't have huge amount of money to spend on welfare measures, so they can't provide all those services to the workers. Then there are certain social organizations like charitable trusts, NGOs. They are also doing a lot for the providing welfare facilities. Like their one example is Seva Sadan Society, Young Men Christian Association, YMCA is there. They provide welfare services to different sections of the society. Types of employee welfare. Now, first of all, it can be intramural. Intramural, as the name suggests, it means provided within the organization, like canteen, restrooms, creches, uniforms, washing facility, all these provided by the employer to the employee, making provision for all those things. Then it is intramural, within the organization. Extramural, provided outside the organization, like housing, education, leave travel facilities or concessions, transportation, recreation, consumer cooperative stores, etc. So these are extramural. Then statutory welfare work may be there, or voluntary welfare work. This is another way of distinguishing between the employee welfare programs. Statutorily, some legal provisions are there in various labor laws which we will discuss. And then there are voluntary welfare work, like those activities which are undertaken by employers for their voluntary work, or that is part of their voluntary or initiatives. Statutory provisions concerning employee welfare in India, if we discuss, it will be discussed under different acts. The first one is the Factories Act 1948. Facilities for washing, storing, drying clothes, sitting and resting, all these should be provided, and they are related to well-being of the employees or welfare of the employees. First aid boxes should be there, one for every 150 workers, ambulance facilities for more than 500 workers, canteen 250 workers or more if they are employed, shelters, restrooms, lunchrooms if 150 workers or more are employed, creches if 30 women are or more are employed, welfare officer if 500 workers or more are working in the organization. So likewise, in Plantation Act, Labor Act 1951, canteen, creches, recreational facility, educational arrangement, housing, medical aid, sickness allowance, welfare officer, they are again have to be provided depending upon the number of people working in the organization. Then likewise, in Mines Act 1952 talks about creches, shelter, canteen, first aid box, pit head baths, welfare officer. Again, the number of people employed, this figure is important. For different things, different figures are mentioned, as we have discussed under Factories Act 1948. But here the figures will be different. The Motor Transport Workers Act 1961, canteen, clean and ventilated restrooms, uniforms, washing allowances, medical facility, first aid facility has to be provided. And the last one is the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act 1970. Under that also adequate provision for canteen, restroom, washing facility and first aid boxes should be provided depending upon the number of people employed in the organization. And the last portion of this lecture is social security. So we'll start with concept of social security. Now, social security refers to protection of the society, as the name suggests, so protection of society. But it provides for its members through a series of public measures against the economic and social distress that would be caused by the stoppage or substantial reduction of earnings resulting from different problems like sickness, maternity, employment injury, unemployment, invalidity, old age, and health. So anything provided from a corpus of fund to the employees who have gone through these type of problem, who is going through these problem to support his life, support his existence in the society, that is social security. Now, social security primarily means social insurance program against all types of problems and providing social protection against socially recognized conditions including poverty, old age, disability, unemployment, and others. Now, this differs from country to country. Now, in developed countries, you will find that the government has huge amount of revenue to spend on social security. So they have schemes like unemployment allowances, and also they make provisions for old age people. Old age homes are there. Different type of facilities are provided to people from different strata of society. But in our country, although certain measures are there, but because of the huge population, they are not adequate. So this differs from country to country, place to place, region to region. Now, social security provision in India has been categorized under three groups. One is social insurance. Now, here common fund is established with periodical contribution from the workers as well as the employers, out of which all benefits in terms of cash or kind are paid. The employers and state prove major portion of finances, so they pour in, even the state also pours in some money in this insurance schemes. Benefits such as provident fund, group insurance, etc. are offered out of the fund. Then there is another called social assistance. Here benefits are offered to persons of small means by the government out of its general revenues, for example, old age pension. And finally, social security, or sometimes called as social protection and employee welfare. Such schemes may be there to take care of like medical care, sickness benefit in cash, old age pension, also retirement benefits, invalidity of pension, maternity benefit, accident benefit, survivor benefits. So we find that different types of schemes are there for the employees as well as the society in general. Beside that, there are certain statutory measures also to cover social security in India. Now, matters relating to social security are listed in the directive principles of state policy. So you can see the importance of social security, and the subject is in concurrent list also. So one of the act is, we will discuss the different acts and the provision of different acts related to social security. First is the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Now, gratuity, you know that it is payable after retirement, on retirement, death, disablement, or termination after 5 years of service of the employee in a particular organization. Here a lump sum payment is made. It is at the rate of half month's emolument for every completed year or a part thereof, and that part may be 6 monthly period of qualifying services, and the amount admitted is maximum of 20 months wages or rupees 10 lakh, whichever is lower. Now this limit has been raised to 20 lakh rupees. So they will be paid 20 months wages depending upon the length of service of the person in the organization. Emoluments refers to basic pay, DA and non-practicing allowances, if any, on the date of retirement. Another act is there, the Workmen's Compensation Act 1923. Now it imposes an obligation upon the employers to pay compensation to workers for accidents. Now mark these words: arising out of and in the course of employment. This has to be proved. If it is not arising out of or in the course of employment, then the employer is absolved from paying the compensation, because if it is not because of the employment that the person has suffered some disability or he dies, then no compensation will be paid. It is only if it is arising out of and in the course of employment that a compensation will be paid to the employees. Benefits are like compensation for injuries which disabled him for more than 3 days. Remember, if it is less than 3 days, again obligations are different. But it is more than 3 days, and for occupational diseases, the benefits will be given. Amount depends upon the wages, age, and type of injury, and it has to be paid within 1 month from the date of on which it falls due. Otherwise, arrears have to be paid with interest, and there may be a penalty also, which may be up to 50% of such amount. Next is the Employees State Insurance Act 1948. Now it provides for medical facilities and unemployment insurance to industrial workers during their illness. Compulsory and contributory health insurance scheme, this one is, and the benefits may be medical benefit like taking care of all medical care, OPD, test, x-ray, hospitalization, specialist advice, drugs, diet, depending upon the type of schemes applicable. Sickness benefit, payment for maximum of 91 days, half of average daily wages, this can be given as sickness benefit. Maternity benefit, cash benefit will be given for confinement, miscarriage or sickness for a period of 12 weeks. Disablement benefit, injury lasts for more than 3 days, then full pay will be given, and free medical treatment also. For permanent disablement, cash payment for life. Then dependents benefit, widow and children are entitled to this. Funeral benefit and in this dependent pension will be given to widow and dependent children. Funeral benefit, eldest surviving member of the deceased worker's family is entitled to receive payment for expenditure incurred on funeral. Next is the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. It provides for retirement benefits. The benefits may be in the form of Provident Fund Scheme 1952. This is a contributory PF scheme where employer and employee, both of them contribute. Then next is Employees Pension Scheme 1995, applicable to persons who are not taking up Employees Provident Fund Scheme. So pension is paid to the retired employee or his widow or children of employee who dies while in service. So employee can choose between either PF scheme or can switch to this scheme. Then Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme 1976. Here the legal heir or nominee of the deceased employee will receive an amount equal to the average balance in his PF during the preceding 1 year, subject to a maximum of rupees 3.5 lakh. The employer and the central government makes contribution to this fund. So these are the 3 schemes under the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act. Another Social Security Act is the Maternity Benefit Act 1961. So in many organizations, they used to terminate the services of the women employee who were going for some maternity leave. So without providing them any leave, they were terminated. So to streamline all those things, this Maternity Benefit Act 1961 was passed to regulate the employment of women for certain specified periods before and after childbirth. Provide for the payment of maternity benefits and benefits in case of miscarriage, premature birth or illness arising out of pregnancy. The benefits are maternity leave up to 12 weeks. Out of these 12 weeks, 6 weeks must be prior to delivery and 6 weeks after the delivery. Full wages or salary for the entire period, medical bonus, but the condition is that she must have worked for at least 12 months immediately preceding the date of expected delivery. And the last one is the group insurance or life insurance scheme. It provides for insurance cover on the lives of several persons. So it is a kind of a corpus, and from which, like every insurance act, acts like that. Here also it's a group insurance and it is a corpus, and out of that whoever needs that amount of money is given to that person. But it is a kind of a contract between the insurance company and the employer, but ultimately the benefit goes to the employee. The features are risk coverage as long as employee remain in the service, contract between insurance company and the employer, premium is jointly paid by the employer and the employee, it is at a flat rate, that is payment is made, claim is received by the employer and it is paid to the employee or his nominee. So these are all the schemes, some statutory ones ensuring social security in India. To summarize this lecture, we can say health is a stage of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of a disease. Employee safety involves protecting employees from injuries due to work-related accidents and hazards. Employee welfare means anything done for the comfort and improvement, intellectual or social, of the employees. Factories Act 1948 and other acts like Plantation Act and Mines Act, they specify provisions relating to health, safety and welfare. Social security primarily means social insurance program providing social protection or protection against socially recognized conditions including poverty, old age, disability, unemployment and others. Different enactments ensure social security of employees in India. Thank you very much, students. So this was Employee Maintenance, Module 15, Lecture 1.